All right. Third topic of the day is... Actually, you know what? Let's do the last one. Let's get it out of the way. Then the fourth topic, we'll just have a clean fourth
One
topic.
more sponsorship
the
from
final
Greg.
integration. What is it, Greg?
The show alive.
Is it proflowers.com?
Don't spoil it, all right? I'm pulling up the new ad, all right?
Okay.
It's booting up on the Kindle right here.
Why are you booting it up on Kindle?
Because that's where I open my PDFs.
Is it...
What? That's weird.
There's so much
okay.
happening. Right. It's ProFlowers.
Yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, go to ProFlowers. It's back.
We just had a ProFlowers show.
How that happened? So, ProFlowers.com. If you click the little blue microphone in the top right corner and type in patron, that's Patron, you will get 100 blooms with a free glass vase for just $19.99. And as you guys... You might know. I don't know if you're familiar with proflowers.com.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, it's this website. We can buy flowers and send it to whoever you want around
Even dead people?
the world. Probably not. I don't think that's how.
What
it
if you just knew
there
where you
needs to be
kept
an-
You
bodies.
could send it to dead
What
people.
if you knew where the bodies were? That's all.
Well, I'm just saying, what for a wake or a funeral? I'm sure you can buy.
Sure, but
flowers.
what about for like if I hypothetically?
Stop, Greg.
I don't know. I don't know if there's an address. I'm pretty sure you're good. It's a guaranteed delivery. It's good. You can set the time you want it to be. It's all this good stuff, and you should do it for Mother's Day. It's great because you can just relax with ProFlowers. You got this. Mother's Day, done. Your mom's gonna be happy if you send her a bunch of flowers. I know your mom, Alfredo.
Can I send flowers as Tim Gettys?
So now we go and we redeem the codes, and we just use this to fuck with people. I like where your head's at too.
Or send it to the local cemetery.
Can all of us make a pact right now to do this after the show and send them to Fran?
Oh my God! Just send her a bunch of
Everybody
flowers.
Fran gets 5 deliveries of flowers at the same time.
I love that.
Space them out. It's like every half hour.
Now,
That's like something.
breaking
That's like something
news.
Nix would do.
We got some breaking news, guys. We can make her day extra special by upgrading to a premium vase and add chocolates for just $9.99
Oh,
more.
that's sold. Set a date, call her over, have the place smell like vanilla bean, and you're set.
Ooh, that's all you need. Now here, like I said earlier, I have a plethora of proflowers.com stories. Right? They didn't stop there.
For the record, I didn't know this.
Well, I'm just having 3 sponsorships in a row. I can tell all my stories. So, the girl that I am currently dating now, when we first...
Your girlfriend.
My girlfriend. When we first started our little minglings and stuff, I remember I went to her house, and it was one of the most awkward moment. There's a delivery at the door, and the guy opens it, and it was... proflowers.com delivery from some other dude, and she was like so embarrassed by the whole thing because she hadn't talked to this guy for like a month, but it was flowers just like, I mean, I'm putting people on blast right now, but it's just nameless people, so it doesn't matter. But he's all like,
I hope he's a
he wrote
Patreon
little,
kind of funny.
she was like, read me the note. I'm like, you want me to read you the note? She's like, sure. So I read it. It's just like, hey, like, I know you need space right now, but like, you know, if you want to talk, I'm here to talk. It's just like, that is literally the opposite of giving her space. You're sending her flowers. And now here's the thing. He sent the small basic version.
He's a basic bitch.
You never send the basic version of the flowers. You got to go deluxe. So that's an option. For like $9.99 more, you get chocolates and all this stuff. Come on.
And all this.
Step it up. Step it up.
You all right there, buddy?
I'm trying to blink out stuff in my eyes. This does not reflect poorly on Pro Flowers.
You really do have a face only a mother can love, dude.
Oh, it's so
I'm
bad.
gonna get it out of my eye.
It's like a fish out of water trying to gasp for air.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Anyways, guys, proflowers.com. You should go use the promo code PATRON, PATRON. And just remember, if you're trying to impress a girl and you're trying to like, if she needs space, but you don't want her to have space, which you should just, you know, do what she wants if she wants space. But if you're trying to make a good impression, you always go deluxe, guys. Come on.
Gotta go deluxe.
This is amateur hour?
Hillbilly Deluxe. That's a song.
Way. It's the only way. All right. Third topic of the day. Journey.
Yeah.
It's a video game. It's also a band. But the video game is what we're talking about today. But the music of the video game. It's getting a vinyl.
All right. Yeah.
A special edition little vinyl release for Journey. Beautiful art prints. They're like art records, so you get 2 of them.
They're art records.
What are they called?
Vinyl?
They're records.
Yeah, but it's like the one
The
they have
vinyl
art,
case.
like art discs.
I don't know.
There's some specific name for it. I don't really know what it is. But
Hold on one second. Hey, Dad. How are you? I'm good. I'm hosting a show right now. Can I call you back? Yeah, I'll give you a call back in a little bit. Bye. I don't talk to my father a lot.
Your dad's got that Midwestern accent.
Yes.
Hardcore.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could hear it.
Yeah.
He's got this
I've never talked to your dad before.
So there's art prints on the vinyls themselves, right?
Right.
And there's 4 different ones because it's their side A, side B of each
right.
front. So there's 4 different pieces of art. All of them are the traveler with the scarf going around.
Sure.
So when you
Which Nick Scarpino thought was bacon, by the way. We went and played Super Time Force Ultra at a PlayStation event. And he's like, the traveler's running around. He's like, why is bacon floating around this guy? And I'm like, there are pieces of fabric. There's a scarf. It's a long scarf.
It's a whole thing. Anyway, so when it spins on the vinyl, it looks really pretty because
Yeah.
then you see the scarf going around and stuff like that.
Sure.
Have you ever seen the picture discs on the vinyl spin?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, it's really cool looking. I like it a lot.
Do you collect vinyl? Do you use vinyl?
I have a lot of vinyl.
Okay.
Yes.
I get the
Yes.
vinyl to listen to it, not to look at it.
But you listen and look at it. It's part of the experience.
No. I listen to music. I don't look at music.
Colin, you need to step it up. Anyway, this is really exciting to me because first off, I love Journey. Second off, I love vinyl. Third off, I like collecting physical goods.
Sure.
Fourth off, I'm a big fan of video game music in general. So the topic here is video game soundtracks.
Sure.
What are your favorites? What are the best?
Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
Peace Walker.
It was a really good one.
You go with
Yeah.
Peace Walker.
I tried to import it and I failed because I was poor, I think, at the time.
See, I'm a connoisseur
Yes.
when it comes to this video game music thing.
French.
I own many of the many video game soundtracks and like orchestrated versions and live versions of all the shit and stuff like that. I have an issue when the sound quality isn't good. When like the samples they use are like really like just weird MIDI things and all that stuff. And Peace Walker is one of those examples where it's like a lot of it, like some of it was actually orchestrated, but the majority of it was like just weird electronic sounding shit, which was like a step back after MGS 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Songs
Have it your way.
Yeah.
Like Burger King. I
Yeah.
liked it. That's what I'm saying.
What?
What do you even say? I don't even understand what you mean.
Was that a McDonald's thing with I'm loving it?
No, have it your way.
Yeah.
And then you just said, I liked
liked
it.
it.
That's what I mean.
I think it was pretty clear.
Oof, man.
I recently played through the Uncharted series.
Ah.
That soundtrack is amazing, but there's only one soundtrack that matters. I'm gonna take you for a ride.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah. Marvel vs.
There you go.
Capcom 2 had a dope ass soundtrack.
See, that's listen to that forever.
That song sucks.
Yeah, that's so.
Song makes me want to kill myself.
I love that soundtrack so much because there's so many games that came out in the 90s that just have this weird feel to them where it's like, what the fuck were they thinking? Like they're like, oh, yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. We got all these Marvel characters. We got all these Capcom characters. What should they fight to? This weird electronic jazz stuff.
Yeah, it was like jazzy music. I'm like,
What?
okay.
All the songs are just like this hodgepodge of just noise. And it's on loop. Always. Why? Why, Colin?
I don't know, because you can't fight the silence. It'll be boring.
That's true.
I think that typically older game soundtracks are better because I think that it's not necessarily even chiptunes, not necessarily only MIDIs. I think you even make an argument for PS1 or PS2 games. It's that game soundtracks sounded a specific way. They sound like video games. Games today sound like movies or TV shows. So like they don't catch my ear that much. Like Uncharted soundtrack, I don't even know a fucking single song on Uncharted. The theme song, but I don't think that's like an extraordinarily good song or anything like that, in my opinion. I have the platinum trophy in all 3 of those games, so I'm very intimately familiar with Uncharted.
What about this one? Boom. Ba-da-dum. But that was more Uncharted, just drums and shit.
Okay, I don't
Then there's
know.
a Vuvuzuela in there.
They went to the soccer game.
Somebody shakes a
When they
maraca.
went to the soccer game.
Didgeridoo.
But when you think about like Mega Man or Castlevania or Mario or whatever, like those are iconic because they, especially the Capcom NES games and the Konami NES games are iconic because they sound like video games. Those guys were pioneering something that we had never heard before.
Sure.
So it's not like shoehorning classical music or a more stoic soundtrack into something. It's like this is a game with game music, and that was awesome.
Well, what's really cool too about the older eras is that they were so limited with what they could do. Like on NES, you could never have more than 3 sounds going at once. So it's like if you had like layers of instruments and all this shit, it could never be playing more than 3 instruments. So that's why most of the games there's just bass line, rhythm line, melody, and that's it. And that's why there's this feel to it that's very unique because of the limitations of it, and that forced them to be more creative with what they were doing and kind of come up with these like melodies that just get ingrained in the experience of what you're doing. Like Wily's Castle in Mega Man 2 is just like that will forever. Anytime you hear even like 2 notes of that, you instantly know where you are. You know, Castlevania and Metroid. Like holy shit, Metroid. Like that is one of the most sparse soundtracks ever, but it like perfectly explained where you were and like gave the whole atmosphere a feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, to the original Metroid, especially like NES Metroid, the opening soundtrack, like when you're at the start screen, is awesome because it's just chimes, and then the whole. I have a cold, so I'm probably not gonna be able to go too high with it, but like the and it's like all like that's like classic, you know, like, and that's just tones. That's not even a song, and it's funny because when you get what's so cool, and Greg and I explored this a little bit when we did the Mega Man playthroughs, and he was with me, is like the music towards the end of the NES era was fucking crazy complicated, and like I don't know like how they did it and like what they learned, but if you listen to like the original Mega Man music, which is good, to Mega Man 6, which is like orchestral by MIDI standards, it's the same hardware. And there were games that needed better music on the NES and on the Famicom. Castlevania 3 in Japan on Famicom had a special music chip in it that let it play music way more advanced than it should have been able to play. And that's why it's one of the great soundtracks of all time, I think, Castlevania 3 specifically. But even when you get to like PS1, Final Fantasy 7 soundtrack, for instance, this is iconic. But again, this was a fusion of like better sound quality. We weren't doing MIDIs anymore. These were real songs. These were real orchestras playing some of these songs. But they still sounded like game music. That was like what was so cool about it. That's why when you have a game like Shovel Knight, that soundtrack's awesome because it sounds like an old Capcom soundtrack. Music isn't unique to games. It was the way music was employed in games that was unique.
Yeah.
And that has been lost. Unfortunately, I think, unless you're trying to go for an intentionally retro style game.
Well, it's crazy too, is like, you know, people hear chiptune stuff and they're just like, oh, it's retro. And it's like, that's not true though. Like there is so much styles within all of that where it's like, you can make if you hear something, you can be like, oh, that's Mega Man. Even if it wasn't a Mega Man thing, like that's influenced by Mega Man. That's Castlevania. Mario even is just like
Mario's very airy and loose when you hear those songs. They're great.
And all it is they're just chiptunes. They're just modern day original chiptune songs, but they have their roots in these different styles that are based on games. And I just think that's like really interesting and cool. And like you bring up Final Fantasy, I feel like when you talk about game soundtracks, like Final Fantasy is probably the most obvious answer, and it's arguably the best when you look at as a franchise as a whole. So many games that it whether it was chiptunes or full orchestra things or orchestrated versions of old chiptune songs, it still works. And like Nobuo Uematsu did some amazing work, and whether it's Final Fantasy 7, 6, 8, 9, all of them have like amazing soundtracks. 4
and 6 and 7 I think are the king. 4 maybe especially. Like it's funny when you think about Final Fantasy's iconic nature. Someone, at some point, musicians sat down to try to like. Obviously, we have a composer, but a lot of musicians probably worked on a lot of these soundtracks. And at some point, someone sat down at a keyboard, a Square, and was like, and played 4 notes. It was like, and I was like, it's like
nailed it.
And like they didn't realize like what they just did, and like how that would insert your brain, like Wily's Castle or something like that, or the Mario tune. But I want to give a shout out to some newer music. I think Mario Galaxy had really awesome music, and I think that that again was a really improper fusion by the standards of 2007 of putting old school styles with totally orchestral music. The last stage when you're fighting Bowser, that music's fucking awesome.
Well, the thing about Mario Galaxy that was crazy was that was one of the first times any company really was like, fuck it, it's full orchestra. Like we're gonna actually use real orchestras to do the entire soundtrack, not just a song or two. Because like you were saying, like Final Fantasy 7, like that was just samples. That wasn't actually orchestrated. It wasn't until like even Final Fantasy 10 was like weird bullshit MIDI stuff. Like it wasn't actual orchestra. There was like a handful of songs that were. But Mario Galaxy, like all the songs were either orchestrated or they were like the Mario 3 remix and stuff like that were obviously electronic. But that was such a unique thing for Nintendo to do, and it started with Star Fox Assault on GameCube, which was their experiment, and that was awesome because that took the game to the next level. Where it's like, yeah, it was a shitty game, whatever, but like the fucking soundtrack was awesome, and that was them dabbling in, let's do a fully orchestrated thing to really make this feel more like Star Wars, like a movie, and it totally worked. And I think we saw that in Mario Galaxy when it's like, that's what made Mario Galaxy feel so grand. Like the gameplay was amazing, the look, the feel, the world, all that stuff. But it's like I think the music made it feel out of this world. But like really though, it gave it that like holy shit
absolutely.
epic feeling of like this is a real thing.
Yeah, it's one of the few gaming soundtracks I actually got because I was really into it. I don't know. I it's funny because when we talk about movie soundtracks, we typically, not always, but typically talk about movie soundtracks in the way of like, well, what songs are on there and what artists are on there and stuff like that. You think about like famous soundtracks even from when we were kids, like Romeo and Juliet and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't about the native music. It was about who you can get, you know. So it was a big deal, you know, when they got all these bands or whatever. It's not to say that there aren't guys like John Williams making their own orchestral music for movies, because obviously they are, and some of the most iconic music of all time, with Star Wars being in the zeitgeist right now, is John Williams' work. But gaming music is just unique because it's actually, while we have like the soundtrack kind of mentality in movies, that's the exception to the rule in games, which is what's so fun. So like when we play a game like Crazy Taxi or something like that, or Tony Hawk, that was movie style soundtracks.
Yeah.
But typically we get more native music, and I think that's like what's so exciting about it. I just wish that it would be a little truer to itself, because I do feel like with the fusion of movies and with movies and games, that music is losing its soul a little bit, which is why I can play most games today on mute. I don't give a fuck. You know, like I would never, ever, ever, ever play Castlevania on mute, ever. You know what I mean? Like, but I can play Uncharted on mute. I don't care. You know, it's like
You're crazy. I don't know about that. I mean, the thing is, I
listen to shit all the time on like when I'm playing games now. I would never do that when I was a kid.
There's a difference between soundtracks and scores. You know, like the movies would have the soundtracks with all the licensed stuff, but there still would be a score that somebody made that gives it that the feel. Like, even like something like Fast and Furious, it's all licensed stuff, but like there is still a score that like plays throughout it. But like things like Uncharted and stuff, like I feel like the music, because it is more of a movie experience, like it is necessary. Like, and like the characters have themes and like all that stuff, and like it builds with the emotional goal that the game is trying to get out.
Sure, but that's not when I play Uncharted. That's not what I like. When I think about the 5 best things Uncharted does, I don't think about the music. I think about the voice acting. I think about the writing. I think about the gameplay and the environments and the exploration, storytelling.
Isn't that because music it's just easy to forget about? Like it's when it's done poorly that you really notice it. You know what I mean? Like, and then like we're talking about like Crazy Taxi and Offspring, or even the Final Fantasy noise, or these things that are driven in over and over and over again. But when I stop and I think back to an Uncharted and how playing through that without music would sound weird. But I don't think when I'm playing it how great this sounds.
That's fair. Yeah, because it fits. Maybe that's the thing. But again, like, I remember the music of those classic games. I remember that's one of the best things about those games. And I wouldn't pick out many games today where I'm like, one of the best things about the game is the music. Like I don't, you know, like that's not, maybe it's not what I'm looking for anymore, but I also don't feel like the music's as in your fucking face anymore either. Maybe it doesn't have to be. I mean, the music was always playing when you play a game like, I don't know, even like one of the great games of NES with soundtracks is Journey to Silius. Sunsoft's games like Batman and Fester's Quest and stuff, like they had some good music in them, but Journey to Silius was fucking a masterpiece of soundtrack. And that was supposed to be a Terminator game, but they lost the license. And that's an awesome game. And I remember that, playing that game for the first time, being like, this game's fun and it's side-scrolling, it's hard, but that fucking music's killer, you know? And I don't really hear it anymore. That's why when you play a game like Shovel Knight, I'm like, oh, the music's in your face again, and this is the way it is, and it's always playing. And I don't know. It's just, I think the games have just changed and moved away from the importance necessarily of I don't want to say the audio fidelity, because it's important with sound, it's important with voice acting, but I think music might be waning somewhat in importance.
Yeah, see, I could never agree with that. Like, I love the old stuff so much, like just as much as you do. Like, it's so important to me, and like we are those weirdos that would listen to just 8-bit music just because we're into it and we like it. But I mean, there's so many modern games like Halo. We haven't even talked about Halo, and it's like that soundtrack is amazing, and that is one of the, I would say, best things about the game. It really ties it all together, and it's like it's very unique in what it is. Like, it's, when you hear that, you know it's Halo. In the same way that you can hear a couple notes of Dr. Wily, if you hear that quiet, you're like, oh, Halo.
Yep.
You know, and it's like when Halo and Metal Gear are 2 examples of this, where it's like they have these iconic themes, and even when the themes go away, and there's just other music that's kind of inspired by those themes, like with Halo 4 or with Metal Gear, Peace Walker, and all that stuff. It's like there's still, you feel the growth and you feel the like where it came from. It might not be the exact same theme that you know and love, but it's still, the music grew just with the game and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm very big fan of so many different game soundtracks, and I feel like I've bought soundtracks of a shit ton of games that I've never even played, just because I'm like, I think.
So
they're
do you listen
awesome.
to them for leisure?
Yeah.
Like I buy them. What I always end up doing is like, I love like I have Uncharted from like the collector's edition or whatever from that giant case, right? I have that, and I put it on my phone, and then it would pop up on my phone, and I would just skip it every time because that's just not what I want out of music usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I finally deleted them. I like Uncharted. I think the music's great, but I don't sit around and be like, yeah, I can go for this score right now.
Yeah. See, I like listening to scores a lot,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a lot of specific things that I really enjoy. There's a series of CDs called Distant Worlds, which is a concert that. A Final Fantasy concert, and it's just a bunch of different Final Fantasy music orchestrated. They're on the 3rd CD now. I love those. I love listening to them all the time. Most games will just take bits and like take usually just the themes and stuff from.
Yeah.
Like Uncharted is one of those where there's not too many songs that I'm like in love with, but I love the theme. And Smashing Live, which was like it was all the Smash Bros songs, like so it's just like a Nintendo medley. If we're gonna top best soundtrack, Smash Bros wins because it's just like all the iconic Nintendo songs in one thing and Final Destination, and it's just all those songs live, and that's fucking awesome. That's great. I listen to that shit.
Okay.
Probably too much.
I just think the design aesthetic of games, I don't know, almost has demonstrably moved away from the importance of music. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like,
When do you think the last point where it mattered was? What, Zelda 64? Like, I mean,
no, I mean even later than that, but I think it still matters. Like Galaxy, I think it mattered. Because Nintendo just knew what they were doing with that game. That game's brilliant. But I think generally when you think about a game, right? Like think about a shooter. And you're moving from point A to point B on the map, and there's a lot of ambient sound. And there's a sound of gunfire and all that stuff, but there's no music. There might be a flourish or a crescendo here and there as you turn a corner to a beautiful vista or something like that, but it's not there anymore. You know what I mean? Like games would have been sterile back in the day without music at all times because like Mega Man, if you were to play Mega Man in 2015, it would be like a huge open world game probably and all that kind of stuff. But Mega Man was just a side scroller and it had no fucking context. So like the music was almost a piece of
it was
the
like
context.
half of it.
Yeah. So like, and it was important, right? And to me, like, so when I think about games, like it's easier for me to think about the games where the music really did matter, like Catherine. Where like it really affected me as opposed to the games where I'm like I don't remember a fucking single song out of some of these games I love. You know what I mean? And it's just like I think I'm just in them for different reasons.
Like that's the difference between like what you're saying does not work with Halo. Like there's music very well timed with all the cues of all the things you're doing, and it's like it is part of the experience is the music. But then you play games like Resistance where it's like what the fuck's the Resistance theme? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Or Killzone or whatever it is. And like I just feel like
the day
or Call of Duty or like Call of Duty, like they always have these great intro music and these montages and the kind of
trailers.
But like when you play the game, like I played almost every Call of Duty game as you have, and I'm like I don't remember any of the fucking songs.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure if there's songs playing. You know, like that's how like, and I'm like I don't know if I really care.
I don't think there is no.
That's like I guess that's what I'm saying is like my mentality as a gamer has changed a lot where the expectation was like this must have good music back in the day, and now my expectation is like it's like not even really that important. It's the way I feel like graphics almost where I'm like I don't even care the way the game looks. Is it fun? You know, like sure. So I don't know. It's interesting to hear different points of views about it. But I agree that like it would be really hard. You'd be hard pressed to beat Nintendo at the soundtrack game, and I think you'd be except for maybe Square, and you'd be hard pressed to beat the old games over the new games. I think with maybe some exceptions like Halo. And you guys seem to like Uncharted, although with the exception of the intro scene, I can't think of one song other than the title screen.
When he dies. It's like, and then
Nathan Drake dies.
Nate.
That's what I remember. It's like Snake. I can actually hear the Metal Gear song, like that little. Yeah, like that. Like I can hear.
Yeah.
A little.
Metal Gear's
It's like a jingle. It's like Cars for Kids. It's a jingle.